Welcome to the Firehouse Dryer Vent Cleaning Podcast. I have my special guest today, Christi Gillentine from 918 Home Team in Tulsa. And today our topic is new homes. There are some fascinating thoughts that Christi has because she's been doing this a long time. So she's got really good thoughts on how buyers can actually benefit with a new home versus old. Can't wait to hear that response. So, Christy, introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself. And thank you for showing up on the podcast.
Absolutely. So I'm Christi Gillentine, and I got into real estate in 2004. I actually got into real estate because I had three young kids at the time. They were 3-year-old twins and a 4-year-old. My hands were kind of full. I had another business I was running, and I realized I needed a lot of leverage in order to get me where I was at. So I actually came into real estate with the team concept in mind, kind of before it was like a thing around here. And so immediately started building towards that, partnered with my partner, Ryan Treadway, and we started the 918 Home Team. And around 2013, I got my first builder account. That was Roush Coleman, and I worked with them for a couple years. And I've worked with a couple other builders here, large production builders, and currently representing DR Horton.
Oh, wonderful. You say Roush
Yeah.
Horton. I've done numerous homes for Roush Horton for cleaning the dryer vent. And I can tell
Uh
you that
huh.
I love the way they really simplified it. Builders can really make that a problem. They can, add 90-degree angles and do all kinds of things
Yeah.
that disrupt airflow. And Roush, on every one of them that I have done, does a very standard up through the wall into the attic. And then they do a 45, a nice gentle bend right straight to the roof. And I absolutely love that. They are very efficient. I've got some of my highest readings when I've cleaned them. Some of the highest airflow readings after the fact
Oh,
from their
that's good
homes
to know.
because it's so efficient and they're pretty short.
Right.
They're about 14 feet on average, or 15, just by the way from where they locate everything. And man, I am super impressed by how they've done that. So anyway, I just had to put my little plug in for Roush Cup.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful
Yeah.
they do that.
They do build a nice, especially entry level,
Yes,
starter home. That
absolutely.
price
Yep.
point is
They
really
are.
great
They're terrific at
for
these.
those
There's
buyers.
there's several here in
Yeah.
our Owasso market. I've done several in Broken Arrow as well. But let's get right into it as far as how new home the new home construction.
Yeah.
How to sell it. I mean, how do buyers win in this market with a new build?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I'm gonna say is a lot of times realtors don't know that they have the opportunity to sell new construction
Hmm.
and at a very high level. The builders rely on realtors to bring buyers to the table. So they definitely want to be working with realtors. For the most part, there's a builder or two I'm sure out there that are a little bit more difficult to work with, but they do love realtors. So the first thing is you probably want to have, relationship maybe with a couple of different salespeople from different builders. So you know what's happening, so you know what kind of product they're putting out, what their price points are, that type of thing. But the main thing is once you've done that and you know what's out there, the biggest, easiest thing to do is just ask your buyer the question, have you considered new construction? And a lot of times, realtors just aren't even asking that question and they miss out on an opportunity to go in that direction.
Hmm. That's interesting. So how can we had talked before, and how do the ownership costs? You said that they can be lower with a new build
Yeah,
in an older home, and I find that fascinating,
absolutely.
honestly. And
Yeah.
probably the question I wanted to ask you the most. How so?
So there's a few ways, but you've got you've got your entry into the house, right? So you've
Hmm.
got closing costs that are usually paid for by the builder, probably some upgrades that they may put in, maybe they're buying down points. So
Okay.
you've got just getting into the house, a lot of things offered to you that you're not going to get from a resale home.
Hmm.
But as far as the actual total cost of home ownership, a lot of times people don't take that into consideration. They think a $350,000 brand new home versus a $280,000, used home around the same price, that type of thing is going to, they're getting a better deal because this home is cost less. But in reality, that home may actually cost them more. They're going to get in there, they're going to have older equipment,
Hmm.
older HVAC, hot water tank, older plumbing, older electricity. The roof, as we know, is an ongoing issue, in our area. So you've got those things to consider. So when you've got a new home, they've got the most up to date, the most energy efficient stuff they're putting into it. So they're putting in the most energy efficient, uh, you know, uh, HVAC system. Sometimes they're going in straight with the tankless hot water.
Oh,
So essentially, you've got a lot of things that are building in so that your utility costs are way lower. And then, in addition to that, I think a lot of people miss the opportunity of the lower homeowners insurance rate. So your homeowner's insurance rate could be up to 30% cheaper on a brand new home versus a resale home.
that's true because I know when I've done, on my homes, that's one thing they're looking at. They're asking you how old is the roofing and the
Right.
HVAC, all the big ticket items, I guess is for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And to be able to say on a new home, then of course they're not going to ask that. They know it's all new. And you
Yep.
mentioned the roofing. That is an issue here, even if it hasn't been replaced and the home's however many years old. There's such a good chance that that home has at least been through a hail event. Now, obviously, probably not enough to make it have, you know, needed to be replaced, but
Right.
any hail event does some damage. It has taken some time off that roof. There's just no debating that. Correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In addition to that, you have to think about the building cost. So a new home is built at today's price. So
Yep.
it's insured, right? At
Mm,
the market rate. An
right.
older home is going to be insured at that price as well, but to rebuild that home, it's going to cost today's price, which means that your insurance, it's going to take that in consideration, and that a lot of times will also increase that rate.
Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, I guess for the existing owner, that might not be as bad of a thing because ideally their policy would have been keeping up with them. They would have been making those costs per, cost. What is it? The consumer price index, your inflation adjustments annually.
Right.
But you coming along as the new buyer may not have that advantage. And you're right.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, gosh, look at what we saw just this year or last 2 years in terms of building supplies. My goodness,
Right.
not just
Right.
availability, but the cost. I mean,
Yep.
the board foot cost was astronomical. Assuming you could
Absolutely.
get, assuming you could get what you needed, and not to mention the windows and everything else that goes with that. Now,
Yeah.
what is it in terms of? Are there advantages too? Because you may go into a neighborhood, let's say where like builders will build out certain neighborhoods. I've got one near me that's being built out by a builder. He owns every lot. It's his development. And that's not
Right.
a, but is there an advantage or talk to us about that advantage if you want to build, like say I like a certain style of home
Mhm.
I'll use Horton for that example, but I want a certain area and I found an area where I can purchase a lot. How does that work in general?
So that really just depends on the builder. There are some builders that will go out and build on a lot for you, or land. If you own land, there's builders that will do that. The production builders are not normally going to be doing that.
Right.
They're more based on a certain system that they're running. But the
Sure.
custom
Oh, yeah.
builders, they have a lot more flexibility. So it's just about finding the right relationship when you're in that situation.
Mhm.
But yes, absolutely, realtors can help their clients if they have land or if they want to buy a lot and assist in that process as well.
Right. You mentioned talking, just basically asking questions, getting with your buyer and
Yeah.
asking, setting that up. Maybe they haven't considered a new build because they don't know the process, what goes into that. But how, talking about other agents, how do you sell that? Do you have tips that there's something, in particular, how they can sell that to the buyer?
That's the main thing. So opening up with that simple question of have you considered new construction opens that entire conversation. So when you do that, they're going to tell you, "Yes, I've actually looked," or they're going to say, "No, I haven't considered it." And then now you're going to be able to, if they have looked, who are you looking with? What are you looking at? We're going to be talking about that. If they haven't considered it, I'm going to point out some of the benefits of what that could look like for them. And honestly, in the last 2 years, the biggest win for buyers in this market was new construction. And the reason for that is they have a multitude of lots and they have a multitude of homes. So if a buyer comes in and buys this home, well, the next buyer can come in and build the next home over here. So
Hmm.
it's not a bidder war that you saw in some of these
Yes.
retail resale homes that were going 20, 30, 40, 50,000 over list price.
Yes.
That wasn't happening. So the people that did buy new construction in the last 2 years really did win over some of the people that, were in bidding wars with some of the other buyers.
Yeah, that makes sense because you're right. That home that's a pre-existing, when it's gone, it's gone. I mean,
Yep.
in theory, you could rebuild it elsewhere, but if it's a 10, 15-year-old home, that's maybe not even doable or feasible.
Yep.
So you're right. That I never even looked at that aspect, and the insurance aspect is,
Yeah.
saving. I think the number you used was 30%. That's tremendous.
Yeah, up to 35%. And then, of course, you've got, some additional things such as the warranty. So, if you're buying a resale home, you either need to buy a home warranty or have the seller buy the home warranty for you.
Hmm.
With new construction, it's guaranteed. You've got a 1 year kind of warranty on a lot of things, and then
Sure.
usually up to a 10-year warranty on your structural foundation,
Hmm.
your roof. There's certain things that the benefits that you can move into a house and literally not have to worry about anything other than your life
Hmm.
versus, oh, we have to fix A, B, and C. We got to get the carpet out of here.
Yeah.
The roof is going to definitely need to be redone in a couple of years, that type of thing. It's just a non-issue at that point.
I know something that I ran into in my situation. The home was 7 years old when we moved in, but I found out from the builder, since we were the second owner, HVAC was another thing that changed. It's the HVAC
Yes.
warranty has gone to 10 year, but I
Yeah.
guess one little negative to that is that it in going to 10 year, that's obvious from 5 is where it was previously. But the downside to that now is that it does not transfer anymore to a second owner. So that's what got us in
Wow.
trouble. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we had to go, we had to replace that ourselves. But still, though, but
Yeah.
it's nice if if you are going to build the home, it's great to know that your HVAC, that's a very expensive item in the home. Uh,
Absolutely.
one at the top, really, right up there with the roof and other things. Wood floors now, obviously, or if you do a lot,
Yep.
yeah, nothing beats the cost of the wood floors. They're tremendously expensive, but the
Yeah.
HVAC, that's a big deal. 10 years is a long time for something to go wrong
It
on
is.
a system.
It is. And two, HVACs, they change. 10
Yes.
years
Oh, good
ago,
point.
the SEER rating that was standard was much lower than it is
Yep.
today. So, taking those things into consideration as well.
Right. And now you've got the two stage, which they're much more efficient, where it's only using X a bit, a smaller amount of power. Because when you've got your AC on, like in the evening when the sun has gone down, your AC doesn't have to work as hard to keep the home at 71 degrees.
Yep.
So you're using
Yep.
phase one power as opposed to the middle of the day when it's 110. It's going to crank up to its highest, power rating with phase two. I think that's why I may be using the wrong terms, but I believe it's phase one.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I
But
get that.
when we
And then
replaced ours, I learned that. I'm
you
sorry.
mentioned too, windows. So,
Oh yeah.
depending, even a home that was built 10 years ago, the
Yep.
windows are not going to have the same type of energy efficiency.
Nope.
So that again plays into your total cost of home ownership with new construction.
That's true. Everything, even the insulation, just any component of the home, with the exception of the nails and sheetrock, that hasn't technology hasn't changed dramatically, but
Right.
certainly things like that. The foam insulation now, the spray foam,
Yep.
and the windows, doors,
The plumbing, the
oh,
plumbing is
yes,
totally
we've got
different. Yeah.
the PEX pipe,
Mhm.
instead of copper. The
Yep.
technology has shifted dramatically, and in 10 years, you're right. You're getting today's technology in the
Yep.
plumbing, the insulation, the doors, the windows, the even shingles. Shingle technology has
Yep.
made a huge jump in the last few years,
Exactly.
which is
So when you buy new, you don't have to think about those things.
right.
It's kind of built in for you, but uh, it's a different experience 5 years into that, 10 years into that versus somebody who's buying a home that's built in the 1970s or 80s, 5 or 10 years into their ownership and the things that they're going to be required, to do onto that property.
Hmm. I know if you look at my example on the HVAC system, had we been the original owner, having that new, if you are the buyer or the builder of the home, having that extra 5 years, I mean, that would have helped us.
Yep.
I know the check that I wrote to have that replaced, and if had I,
They're expensive.
oh my gosh, it was ugly. It was a bad day.
Yeah. The
But I know
first,
we
when I
remember.
was 20, 24, 20,
Hmm.
yeah, 24, I bought my first home, and everything, it was a used home, but everything had been replaced.
Hmm.
Everything except for the hot water tank. And the day we moved in, the hot water tank,
You're kidding.
it went out on me.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep.
I know if I amortize that cost out over, or I say I have to expense that. But if I didn't, had that warranty been in place, and then I could have amortized that savings from that warranty into my buying, and then now all of a sudden we've got even a
Right.
larger cavern between a new home buyer than like had I bought the home used like I did. I can tell you
Yep.
from experience what a difference that is. Um, wow, it was it was tremendous.
Right.
And I even see
Absolutely.
that on a much lesser degree. I even see that on with the dryer vents. Believe it or not, I have over and over and over. Hadn't happened this week yet. Here we are on Thursday. It hadn't happened yet, but last week it happened where the home closed or was in the process of closing. They were doing the walkthroughs, and they had to have the dryer vent cleaned because the home is it's only 3 years old. But
Mm.
the
Hmm.
and the only reason it happened, unfortunately, neither agent, the buyer agent or the seller agent, told the buy, mentioned the dryer vent. Unfortunately, but
Mm.
because the seller had scruples and knew that before they left that the dryer was throwing, and it was a newer dryer, and it was throwing an error code for airflow,
Mm.
and he knew that.
Gotcha.
So he had the class, if you will, to contact me himself and have me come out and do that for the new owner. And sure enough, I get up on the roof, and the builder or the roofer, when they roofed it, they did not take the screen.
Oh, they covered it.
Yep. Well, they don't know the difference.
Yeah.
In their defense, when they're
Yeah.
up there on the roof and it's just deck wood, and they see everything sticking up through the decking, they don't necessarily know what's a bathroom vent,
Right.
which doesn't can have a screen. There's nothing coming out of it, but warm air, moisture.
Yeah.
So, but on the dryer vent, it says on the bottom of most of the roof vents, there's usually a sticker that says if this is to be used for a dryer vent specifically, then the screen must be removed. But in this case, the roofer did not remove it. And so all that lint, as they started using it, it piled up into that screen and eventually blocked it completely
Wow.
off. It had, no airflow
And
at all.
that's a fire hazard, right?
Absolutely,
Like
it is.
that's
It certainly is
yeah.
because it's also trapping the heat. And
Yep.
but because he had a newer dryer and it had those safety features built in, it felt that temperature rise. It was not able to
Gotcha.
evacuate the hot air. And so it shut off. It was just turning off every 10 minutes. And he knew that.
Gotcha.
And he could have kept that to himself and moved on to where he went. But he hired me. And so even something as smaller, now granted, that's not as big of a cost for a buyer, but things even of that nature, that was only a 3-year-old
Yeah.
home. And the buyer, or like you mentioned on day one, that would have happened to that buyer. They would have came in, connected their washer and
Yep.
dryer, done their first load of clothes, and the dryer would have failed right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And they would have had no reason or no way to know why.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's crazy.
You're buying. It's kind of like buying a used car without
Yep,
any type of warranty. We all
exactly. And I
take
see
that
that.
risk when
Fortunately,
we
I
buy a
see it
used car.
a lot, and that's very unfortunate.
Yeah. And
So anyway,
not that resale homes are bad. There's just a
no,
lot of benefits to new
exactly.
construction that a lot of
Right.
people both in our industry and buyers don't know about.
That's
And
exactly right.
the sad part is that when the people in our industry don't know about it, they're missing out on opportunity
Absolutely.
because that buyer may turn around and go buy that, and if you don't ask the question, have you considered new construction, you won't even know until it's too late.
That's true. Well, in wrapping up, is there anything else that you have that you wanted to talk about as far as new homes that we didn't touch on? Anything else or anything about Horton in particular? Um,
Yeah, so DR Horton is coming in strong into the area, and we've got a neighborhood in Bixby, and that's starting around the 325 price point.
mhm,
Most of them are single story homes around 2,400 square feet. You can't beat it on quarter acre lots. They're nice. We've got two neighborhoods going to be in Broken Arrow coming up next year.
mhm.
So lots of big things. We're in Bartlesville right now. We're in Pryor right now. They're really kind of taking a look at the entire area and figuring out where people are looking and getting people affordable homes so that they can, be happy whether they're here in Tulsa or, they're in Pryor.
Wonderful. Well, Christy, I really appreciate that feedback. Was amazing because I think you brought up a lot of points that a home buyer and even agents are not familiar with. It's just not necessarily in their wheelhouse and things that they discuss on a day-to-day basis. And hopefully they gained a lot from that. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If anybody wants to reach out to me, you just send them my information. I'll be
I'll
glad to
put
answer any questions.
put that in the show notes. I'll put your contact information
All right.
and your social media and all that type of things. And really appreciate it. Thanks, Christy.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.